getting the word out there. It's good alternative media to use against the globalists in their own system.
It is. Mark is just a wonderful person and does a great job. Let's go ahead and talk to Hunter in Florida. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, I'll see you Sunday. Look forward to it. I just wanted a couple points on Ron Paul that people may not have heard that the media did not publicize. Only 1/3 of Republican people actually voted in Florida. That's number one. And I literally just heard just over an hour ago that our local ABC affiliate was talking about the debates last night, that not one candidate talked about the birth control issue, and that was actually incorrect because Ron Paul did address it, and he addressed it directly. And the third point with Ron Paul is I hope he's planning on focusing on because the establishment, the way they work, of getting his independent in line and running as an independent, because I think that we need to make sure that the left-right paradigm does not continue and these debates of the Democrat-Republicans don't continue, and having him on the front line debating of the left-right paradigm in the end of the game will show a lot of people and awaken a lot more people.
I totally agree with you, and I appreciate what you've said here. I'm going to get Lou Rockwell on tomorrow if we can. I'm going to fire the bat searchlight up into the sky and see if we can get him on, maybe even today, and just go into the fourth hour. In fact, even try that because this is so important. We need to get his perspective because he was the former head of the congressional office and of the first congressional run and other issues, good friends with Ron Paul. He can give us the deep inside skinning. And I'll tell you right now, he's going to say, I don't think Ron Paul's going to do that. But if he did, it's because he's been guaranteed he can act autonomously. And if Ron Paul comes out and says, I've been told I can be VP and do and say whatever I want, well, then that's a different subject. And then Ron Paul would say and do what he wanted. But I'll guarantee you Ron Paul's a man of his word. So they'd come to him and say, well, promise you'll do what the president says and we'll make you VP. He'll say no. So it's not going to happen. But because this is a big issue now, and because it will be used against Ron Paul, like the whole Bilderberg thing, a Bilderberg attendee, big libertarian guy, a mainline libertarian, the guy that created a bunch of different websites and systems like PayPal, New Money, he created a super PAC and is supporting Ron Paul. And everybody's like, it's Bilderberg, they're supporting him. Well, he doesn't control what people create super PACs and do. I mean, is that done deliberately to make him look bad? Probably not. It's probably done because Bilderberg wants to try to co-opt that movement. It doesn't mean it's going to co-opt Ron Paul. But that's how they come at you. I mean, I've had the system come and offer me big jobs to sell out. I'm like, no, I'm going to be who I am, stay true to my principles, and build my own system. And we're doing it because of you supporting us. Infowars.com.
Folks, Iran and the Mideast nuclear.
I just talked to Richard Reeves, who's worked as a delegate more stalwartly for many years, fighting for Ron Paul. And he said, look, they're just trying to damage him. That's why the media is covering this. That's why they're getting into it. And Ron Paul's not going to do that. And I agree with him. It's just they can take statements by his campaign people, about, oh, yes, Rand Paul would be great in there. Or little, cutesy stuff with Romney, and they can use that against him. But again, Ron Paul says this himself. He is only a focal point of liberty, just like I am, just like so many others are, just like you are. He's just the biggest focal point. All over the world, they're trying to black him out because people are looking at what he stands for and using it as an example of freedom across the planet. And it's a bellwether, it's a barometer, it's a gauge. And the fact that the system would be dangling that in front of Ron Paul only shows the success he's had. So I have total confidence in Ron Paul. I have total confidence in Rand Paul. But we're taking your calls on this subject because it is the type of complex issue I like to cover so we can really think and get into different angles of this. Jeffrey Smith is going to be joining us, expert on GMO. We're continuing with your calls right now. Who's up next here? Greg in New York?
Hey, Alex.
Greg in New York. I'm good. Welcome.
Thank you. I was just named delegate for Ron Paul in the 23rd Congressional District here in New York State. I've worked so hard for this man that I can't believe for a second that Jesse or anyone would really try to talk him into taking the VP. It just would go against everything that this man has stood up for. And personally, Alex, I just don't see it. I see Ron taking this all the way. In upstate New York, we're right up here, and we've got so many followers, and they just can't keep us down. And with Ron going with Mitt, it's oil and water. It would just never work. And even with Rand has too many principles. He's too much of his own man, and I can't see him bowing down to the elite as well. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's what's happening. And then I think Rand says, "Oh, I'd be honored to be considered." First he said, "Well, I don't know if I can really speak to this, but I'd be honored to be considered. It's an honor to be considered, to be the Vice President of America." He sees that as, he's very polite. He's very nice. Like during the NDAA, he's like, "Now, do my colleagues know this subsection says it can secretly arrest citizens? I know you don't want to get rid of habeas corpus and basic liberties. I know you don't want to overthrow the American system." And then meanwhile, Lindsey Graham and all of them are like, "Yes, we do. We're going to do it." I mean, literally acting like that. So I think it's a lot of high road behavior. And Ron Paul and Rand have both been criticized for their gentle ways. I mean, I was watching the other night. We played a clip of it on the Nightly News last week because we watched like 30 minutes of it to find the clip of him hitting our home run. I'm trying to find the clip where he knocked it out of the park, but the clip on YouTube didn't have that congressional baseball game. And I was just watching his mannerisms and everything. And it's just kind of like a non-assuming, almost nerdliness, but just real polite, real friendly, real, business, get the job done. And that's just how they are. So they just don't start really being mean to people until if you say something nasty to them, then they'll come back at you. They're just gentlemanly. But I think that attracts more people than it turns folks off. And we'd like to see a little more fire. We'd like to see a little more attack. Maybe there should be more of that. But we're not in the arena at that level. I mean, what do you think of what I've said here?
Honey than you can with vinegar. And I think that's the good doctor. He portrays himself and carries himself to be such a gentleman and such a founding father, and he's a figure, he's a figurehead, and he realizes how important he is to people's lives, and he doesn't let it go to his head. And I've met him a couple of times, not like you obviously, but working his campaigns and in town halls, and he's just I've met Bill Russell and sports stars. I used to chef in Arizona, and I've never been starstruck until I met Dr. Paul. And I'll leave it at that. Alex, I'm a Prisonplanet TV subscriber. You are the man. Keep up the fight, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling into the show. Do we have time to go another caller before we got a break here? Probably not. We got about 1 minute. I will enter some of the other news briefly when we come back that I haven't gotten to, and then we will go to Jeffrey Smith. But I know I've got all these callers. You know what? I'll tell you what I'll do. When we come back, Daniel, Barry, John, and Joe. Those are the oldest callers. I'll give each one of you about a minute and a half. And then we'll get Jeffrey Smith on, okay? And then we'll have him for about an hour and 20 minutes with us or so. I was going to have him for 2 hours today, but just this Ron Paul news, all the rest of it. And it's an important discussion. I mean, it's about this journey of liberty and the fact that Ron Paul is now public property of the Movement for Liberty worldwide of 1776 worldwide. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us.
We're on the march.
To a burning ring of fire.
Okay, we've got Jeffrey Smith joining us, author, researcher, investigative journalist on GMO and beyond, because a lot of big studies are coming out showing now that it's actually getting into human DNA. It's not just going through your stomach and causing health problems. The latest on that, the honeybee collapse, all of it. And then I'm going to go into the fourth hour today. Lou Rockwell is going to come on and give us his take for 30 minutes on Ron Paul and how amazing the campaign is, what it signifies for liberty, what I believe is clear election fraud. What they've admitted in 2 states is fraud, but it's not getting any coverage, Iowa and Maine. So he'll be joining us coming up in about an hour and a half. Well, not about, in an hour and 27 minutes. From now, he'll be joining us as I come to you here from the road. This is great today. No hiccups on the road as it normally does. We had a few hiccups the last few days, but I'm told listeners and stations say that it was just a little bit of hiccups and kind of made it more exciting. It's kind of like when you're watching the news and you see like a problem or a light go out. or that time Hillary was on 60 Minutes, they released the tape and the light falls on her. It's kind of fun to watch the train wreck when you're not part of it, huh? It wasn't a train wreck, though. It was kind of a bump in the road, mainly. A couple bumps in the road. Kind of like some of these highways. I drive around the country more now, and the roads are falling apart. The more money they spend, the more they fall apart because of all the scams and dollar devaluation. Now, we got Jeffrey Smith coming up here in just a moment, but let's jam in these callers on their take on the establishment trying to dangle the idea of Ron Paul taking a VP slot after they steal the election from him, if they're able to do that. Daniel in Texas, give us your take.
Yeah, Alex, before I get to my Ron Paul question, just wanted to suggest the name Mockingbird Media for the mainstream media, both as an homage to Operation Mockingbird and also the way that they parrot each other's talking points.
That's a good idea.
I think Mockingbird Media, it's got a good ring to it, but I know time is limited. Let me get to my questions. For Ron Paul, my concern is that they're going to dangle not the VP slot, but rather a convention-speaking slot, and maybe altering the party platform to include an audit of the Fed. And as we head into the possibility of a brokered convention where Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich combine delegates, Mitt Romney may need Ron Paul's delegates. My fear is that Ron Paul won't get a VP slot in exchange for putting Mitt Romney over the top, but rather they'll get a party platform, which they'll then turn their back on, and a speaking slot, which, while valuable, really isn't that much. And I guess as an addendum to those questions, if I could just put in these two questions. On the topic of Iran and anti-imperialism, Ron Paul has been an absolute leader on opposing this. What concerns me is that he hasn't directly attacked Mitt Romney both for his warmongering, his neocon cabinet that he's establishing. Romney has been the leading warmonger in many of these debates. It disappoints me.
No, that's the one thing. I don't think Ron Paul has been attacking Mitt Romney enough. And I just want to say something right now. Daniel in Texas should be hosting this show. In 30 seconds, he said what I tried to say in an hour. And that was all the points. I even wrote notes this morning that I wanted to cover. I didn't get to half of them because instead I got into like background and, how I know, these people and know they're real and what can be affecting them. And let's get inside their minds. Yes, it's going towards a brokered convention. That's admitted. Romney may need Paul. And so that's why if they do need him, they're trying to be friendly. And I think some of the people lower down, not Paul, but some of the people that get the work done have become enamored. And they've made some enamored statements of Romney. And I think the fact that they know Ron Paul's retiring, their jobs are going away in a year or less, when he steps down from Congress, they kind of want some lifeboats. And so Ron Paul doesn't end up selling out. But some of the people that work for him, I don't want to call it selling out, but compromise to an extent. And I don't think Ron Paul should let that happen. He's a very nice person to people that are close to him. And I understand that, people that are married into the family and other things. It's just that I think you can't let that get in the way. You can't be too nice to Mitt Romney. He's attacked him some. He's run some ads against him, but we need to see major attacks on Romney now from Ron Paul. And I think that's a great point. You make the point about the broker convention. That's what they're dangling now. Okay, we'll give you an audit the Fed. It's some whitewashed, nothing where the Fed sets up a blue ribbon committee and says, okay, give us more power. That's what they did a few years ago. Not in the financial, overhaul. Not what Paul proposed, but what they ended up having. And so you're right on that. You're right on every facet of what you just said. And so I can see the perspective of some of the people in his campaign, saying, well, look, if we're talking about them stealing it from us, which is clearly going on, let's not be sore losers, or then we may not even get anything on the platform. Well, the Republican platform of Texas reads like Alex Jones wrote it, but they don't follow one stinking piece of it. That's the same thing nationally. The platform's got some good stuff in it, nothing like Texas. They don't follow any of it. So you're right. Ron Paul needs to both barrels attack and savage them and use the platform he's got to point out there's no difference. And he's been doing that to a certain extent. But great point, sir. I think you should shoot a YouTube video and send it to us, and we'd air it here because your point is very well taken. Anything else, Daniel?
Yeah, the last point I'd like to make is I think as Ron Paul supporters, it's the job of people now to say, for all the money and time and effort and organization that people have put in,